guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are background full circle, so we're in for push, but this is my other session that you've not seen yet. So majority of the session is pretty similar, to be honest, same format, because my needs, kind of like I went through in the last video, are the same, you know, so I'm trying to get a bit more delt, a bit more prepared. I don't do a huge amount of like pec work in general, so the format is pretty much the same, so a bit more delt dominant with the way that things are laid out. The only real difference I have in this session is just that my first press is different. So rather than doing the normal shoulder press, I do a mid to high incline Smith press, which is generally a little bit more like front delt, upper pec for me. Probably one of my favorite pressing movements, and then straight onto the stride as usual. So looking forward to taking you through this session. We have got AJ with us again, now that we're pretty much on like similar sessions. So like the only difference that he has is that he'll do a little bit more pec volume. His press, as you can already see laid out here, is a bit more lower incline, because again, he needs more pec comparative to what I need. So yeah, looking forward to taking you through the session. Just a little update, I suppose, on myself. There's actually not like a huge amount to update on. I'm feeling just the same as I did in my last video. I'm actually feeling really good, which I think sometimes you have days when you feel good and you're like, should I be feeling good? But I also have days and I have moments where I feel a little bit more low. And I think it's really important to understand that in prep, like you have ups and downs, like you have some days where you do feel a bit tired, but then you also have days where you do feel really good. And I think that reminding yourself of that in those moments is very, very important. And for the most part, this is something I want to talk about a little bit later in the video, I suppose, with just advice for, you know, managing your prep, your first prep especially, is that like, because I don't fixate on being in prep so much, like it makes the process quite simple because I don't kind of over intensify it too much. So it's just kind of the same thing over and over again. And I sometimes think that in the videos, I'm like, I've not really got that much to update you guys on, because it's just the same thing over and over for the most part, until you get into those final stages around the show days. Like you just keep doing the do and keep having the best time possible, training as hard as you can, and enjoy it as much as you possibly can do as well. It's very important. But yeah, we're going to crack on with the first press here now. So we've done 3 sets of Y raises as usual to kick off this session. I'm going to start warming up on this, and then I'll maybe guide you guys through those sets.
One of these things that you'll have to manage when you have a training partner, especially if they're in a different phase to you, especially like Loz now, she's like coming up to 5-6 weeks out. She might say things in her warm-ups like, "This feels heavy today," or this Smith machine feels different to that one, etc. If you're training with someone like that, you have got to completely block that shit out, because your own mindset is what's going to take you towards good, effective sets for where you're at. I mean, even if you're training on your own and you're just getting some feedback in your warm-ups that it feels heavy, tell yourself, no, it feels light. Like, this is so powerful. So like when Loz was saying there, oh, this Smith machine feels heavier, I just said to myself, nah, it feels lighter. So control this and you'll gain access to so many more productive sessions.
Let's see it.
Oh,
Let's see it. Come on.
Oh.
Power through all day. Come on.
Yep.
Yes! Lovely.
Ooh.
Yes.
Go again!
All you.
Fuck you.
Very nice.
Yes, good. Yes, lovely, come on. Yes, come on. Good, lovely, 1. Let's go. Tiny touch. Yes. Not even there. Good, finish. Beautiful, rack. There we go. That was good.
Yeah.
That was really good.
I'm 3 pounds down from my last
Exactly.
So it's going to feel harder, but you've got to embrace the hard reps.
And your ability to grind through multiple hard reps. It's like, that's what people need to see on these videos.
Yeah, true.
It's like, most people would just do 1 rep with that and be like, oh, I knew I couldn't do 20, rack. You're just a fucking pussy if you do that.
Yeah.
Seriously, you need to embrace difficulty. That's what this is. It's not easy. It's not easy to hold on to muscle. It's not easy to battle through days where you don't fancy training or you're really tired. But that's what you signed up for. So that's literally it. It's literally it.
It's all about embracing discomfort. Like, I think there is obviously part of it where you have to make smart decisions. You know, if you're starting to take unproductive work, yes, you have to take maybe a little bit of a low drop on certain things, but that's not to make the work easier. That's to make the work still just as challenging, but appropriately challenging, you know, without it being unsafe, without it being unproductive. So like prep, you're going to experience discomfort, bodybuilding, you're going to experience discomfort. So you have to find that balance with being like kind to yourself. Like, we're not here to be kind to ourselves, like we're here to push ourselves and to test our limits. So just be careful of kind of treading that line a little bit, because like I say, it's meant to be hard. Yeah. Here we go. Easy. Yes, come on, keep them flying. Yes. Okay, come on. Yes!
Yes!
That's another thing also. Obviously we just touched on, you know, pushing through those challenging sets. But that's like very, very relevant for like the reps that feel hard, like specifically. Because one thing that a lot of people do when a rep starts to feel hard is they just instantly rack or they instantly bail. And you don't realise how capable you actually are of like driving through those reps. Like if as soon as the rep starts to get like slow or hard or doesn't move, if you rack it straight away or leave it straight away, you're just missing out on all the magic right there. Like that's where you have to actually grind through that rep. Like let it be slow, let it be hard, and let yourself like battle it a little bit, because otherwise you're basically just avoiding failure every time. Like it's meant to be difficult. So don't always just like bail out of a set or bail out of a rep as soon as it gets challenging, because that's the part that you then actually need to work through.
The most important thing when you're dieting down in terms of training is upholding two main things: intensity and execution. So if you can uphold those two, and the numbers are relatively good in comparison to where you're at body weight wise, you're doing a great job. If you're not upholding intensity, you're probably leaning into the difficulty of the diet too much, and you're taking too much of that fatigue into the gym floor, and you're not flicking the switch. If you can't uphold execution, you're probably just trying to maintain too much load. Simple equation to work that out: drop the load a little bit, focus on maintaining intensity and execution, and that will indefinitely hold the most tissue on your frame. Because trust me, I've done it both ways. I've tried to hold too much load and drop my form off, and I've tried to, perhaps, actually to be fair on myself, I don't think I've ever dropped off intensity that much. So, but that again can definitely lean into, or that can definitely cause some people to lose tissue at the end of preps. So for some, this may seem like such a simple cue, but it's something again that I see with a lot of clients at the start of coaching that they still get wrong. Your feet are your base. So when you're setting up on a chest press, shoulder press, whatever, if you're not setting your feet up in the same position and placing force back into the back pad, back into the bench, you're missing out. Realistically, what that tends to look like is for most people having their feet in front of their knees. That way you can push back into the back pad. A lot of people tend to take a bit of a powerlifting setup where they're like this. The issue there is you can't really place full force back into the bench. So feet ahead of knees, drive back into the back pad, and you're gonna be nice and stable and potentially get another 1 or 2 reps, important reps at the end of the presses. Oh. Oh.
Yes, strong. Yes, come on.
Oh!
Easy, come on. Power through. Yes.
Yes!
Lovely. Just like that, it's really important to understand where your training partner does or does not need a spot. Because like that last rep there for AJ, there'd be a lot of people who'd want to like run in there and go and take that rep away from him. And that would probably just like, one, annoy him, but two, actually throw him off because he then suddenly thinks that he's struggling because you've run in to spot him when maybe he actually doesn't need it. And that takes time when you're actually like training with someone and you're having to spot them, but like have that open communication, have that understanding, and actually like pay attention to how they train, see how much they can actually give, so that you can be there to aid and assist them, but not take away from the work that they're actually capable of doing on their own. Why are you like just laughing at me this whole session?
I just said it's a cool look and you were just like...
I didn't actually hear you. I wasn't like just like basking in that.
Too cool for the compliment, huh?
Possibly one of the easiest tips and cues that you can take on board any pressing work is think about keeping like your chest up, your sternum elevated. Try not, when you look out, try not to just suddenly let everything just like decrease and relax like this, because then not only are you taking that load probably straight off, like especially if you're trying to train your pecs, straight off your pecs, and probably like even like hurting your shoulder a little bit. But then when you come down into the next eccentric, you're having to completely reset your position, which is why people then like fail so much or so quickly, because they take the hard reps and then they go, and then they're trying to go again, and then they've got nothing. So like actually keep yourself in the set, take an actual like shallow out breath at the top or exhale, and just keep yourself locked in, block it out, and then straight back down to the eccentric, and keep your position as set as you possibly can do. Beautiful. Yes, good, come on. Yes, finish. Lovely.
Good, come on. Lovely, good.
Failure just it comes out of nowhere. Should have had another one there.
It's all right. You'll probably end up gaining them back when we like finish the deficit and start bringing up food. You'll start gaining reps back that you lost.
When's that go?
When you finish getting lean enough, which is not too far away. This girl, like, she just thinks she's not lean at all. It's just your head's completely gone, completely in the gutters.
When I diet, I have literally no section of how lean I am at all.
One day it would be nice. I think when she's on stage and she gets some pictures back, maybe she'll realise, all right, I'm in an okay nick. I'm in decent shape.
I even do it with my checking shots now though. Like I looked this morning and I was like, oh, a bit leaner, but then I think, oh, it's just a picture. Right.
That's just a picture. Just real
But
life.
that's why I don't coach myself. That's why it's good to have an external eye, because that's the whole thing. Like it's so hard when you've been in that headspace, especially for me. think I've been in prep for 22 weeks now. So like when you've been dieting for that long, you also like adapt so much to the level of leanness that you are. So like you struggle to see it because you've been in that phase for so long. And it's just like when you see your body every day, like you don't have that same perception. So having somebody to have an external eye on you is really, really important. And I would struggle massively without having AJ, and that's not a bad thing for me to say because lots of great coaches don't need external eyes, and even AJ has me as an external eye to help him even when he coaches himself. So it's not a bad thing to need that opinion from somebody else to guide you. So as a first timer, one of the biggest things that you have to learn to manage throughout prep is probably just stress, because the prep in itself is a little bit of a stressor. But I think one of the biggest problems for a lot of first timers is that they create a lot of stress for themselves throughout the prep, especially when it comes to trying to make that prep perfect. And you stress about little things that, yeah, sure you can manage, but you probably don't need to stress about too much, like little things like meal timings or like maybe being down a little bit on load in the gym, and things that ultimately you just need to do your absolute best with. But you drive stress about those things. And then the problem is that those little things don't actually matter that much, but the thing that does have an impact is the stress that you create. So be able to separate, okay, does this actually matter? And am I now actually just being my own worst enemy and creating more stress and more problems for myself? So learn to not worry about the things that in the grand scheme of things aren't going to have a negative effect. And even the things that maybe aren't perfect, they're there to be learning opportunities. And that's a huge part of your first prep, is actually learning and continuing to develop as a bodybuilder. Down, 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 down. Yes, finish. Good.
This is a tip if you have limited machines in your gym, or you have a really good gym, like I do, Los Dos, and you really like a specific machine and you're wanting to run it in both rotations. My advice is use different tempos across the 2 rotations. So we have a 5-day gap between each push session, and in the other one, we have kind of like a straight set, as heavy as possible with good control on the dip. And then in this session, I have a little pause in the stretch, trying to be really intentful with the change of direction, slow it down, basically dead stop it under tension, and then obviously drive into the contraction. I also changed the settings on this day too. Luckily enough, for the prime pieces, you can change the profile. So it's a little tip if you like the same pieces or want to use the same piece across 2 sessions. Quick one on that as well, before someone says, but Loz isn't pausing. This is her straight set day. She pauses on the other day. It's because I know someone will say, your pauses suck.
So I maybe need to load that on setting 1, maybe just because like the pull and the stretch feels like it's going to tear my implant open.
See, that's a look that would be good on stage, is the torn implant look. It brings out a little bit more detail across the top line.
As a side note, so I've not actually spoken about this, but I did have a breast augmentation in 2022. It's like a year into my off season, and after I had that operation, which I chose to have, I took 6 weeks off because I had to, and that was a time frame that, like, yeah, it was obviously challenging, but as I say, I chose to do that for something that I'm very fortunate to be in a position to choose to do as well. So yeah, like I miss being in the gym, but it wasn't the end of the world because I had no right to be, complaining about not being in the gym for a reason like that. But when I came back in, it meant that, I had to literally start from scratch. Like with my upper body training, I was doing machines with no weight on them just to get used to movement. And that was where like I had to take the approach of like, right, I need to see this as a positive. I need to see this as an opportunity to improve the way that I train and to build up from scratch. Because when are we kind of thrust into those situations? Not very often. And I could have very easily just moaned and complained and been, oh, this sucks because I'm not as strong as I was, or you just choose to turn it on your head, because the reality is there was no changing that circumstance. And it's the same with anything. Take time off from being sick, work, holiday, whatever it is. Like, you're in that situation no matter what. So you either choose to fixate on the negatives or you choose to find the positives. And I promise you, like, there's always, always, always a positive and always an opportunity that you can seek out. So, you know, don't miss out on taking advantage of that.
Oh shit.
Really important that you don't get distracted by maybe trying to keep up with your training partner, or especially your significant other, especially if you're maybe a female training with a male. That's not to say that you can't be as strong as them just because you're a female, but there will probably be a lot of things where they will be stronger than you, and it can be damaging if you try and like keep up too much, especially if they're maybe more experienced at training you. So, for example, in my position, when I first started training with AJ, like, he has 5, 10, like a lot of years more training experience than I do. And I was trying to keep up with him and do stuff that he was trying to do, which I didn't have, the skill like of doing that, or the strength. So I was putting myself in a lot of, honestly, just unsafe positions and not taking what would have been my best work, because I was just trying to keep up and move loads that I wasn't able to move, or train at a frequency or volume that I wasn't able to recover from, because we all have different strengths, we all have different capabilities, and you can't just copy and paste what somebody else is doing and try and keep up with them, because it can actually really pull away from what you need to be doing. So whether that's because you're training with your partner, you're training with someone who's in the season, you're training with somebody who has more training experience than you, whatever it may be, don't try to match exactly what they're doing. Most important thing is that you keep up the work rate. It doesn't matter how strong you are, it doesn't matter what load you're doing, as long as you're training with intensity, that's all that person needs to be present, and that's everything, and that's all the student to do as well. Go off. So flies as usual on here after the laterals. 3 sets on there as always, a little bit more volume towards the side delts, and then just 2 sets on this, so I don't as much volume prioritised in the context. This setup is really, really nice actually on the Cybex Bravo. It's like one of the nicest cable stacks ever. If I was to have a home gym, me and AJ talk about this all the time, like we'd love to just have like a Smith Cybex Bravo and then a barbell in like a shed. That's pretty much all you need, because you could do like a whole session on this, especially for pull if you need to. I know it's like a bit boring, but you can do a lot on it. You just need to take the time to set yourself up. So I'll set this up now and then crack on with my sets. Oh. Another really, really helpful tips for first timers is to learn to not over intensify the prep and make almost everything you do, every part of your day, about bodybuilding, about prep, because that's where you really kind of like get in your head as such about the prep as a whole. And it's why I think it's so important to have parts of your day or have things in your life that aren't just bodybuilding, whether that's work or realistically things outside of work as well that allow you to actually switch off. Because a lot of us as well, you know, like our work is maybe related to bodybuilding as well. So having things that actually kind of pull you away from that so that you can switch off, you know, whether it's having other hobbies, having other interests, having a TV show that you watch, reading a book, whatever it may be, kind of coming out of just like everything being like prep and I've got to do my steps and eat my next meal and do this and that. Because at the end of the day, you have your non-negotiables that you need to box off, and you do need to conduct yourself as an athlete, but you don't need to over-intensify the process so much. Because as long as you are ticking your boxes and giving them your best effort, you don't need to let it completely consume you, because it just drains your energy. And it actually makes it a lot harder than it actually is. Try not to kind of over-intensify the process and turn it into this massive thing that it actually isn't, because in reality, it is a lot simpler than that. And with maturity, you start to understand that a little bit better. But it is just something to be really, really mindful of if you do find that you are maybe getting in your head a little bit at points. So we're just finishing off with tricep work. And I'm just usually like in my thoughts at this point in the session, not in a bad way, but just thinking about different things. And I think that another thing that a lot of people struggle with sometimes in their first prep, and honestly in general, but it's the idea of like maybe not being lean enough, or whether they need to be leaner or they should be getting absolutely shredded. And there's a couple of things that you need to consider when it comes to how lean you're going to get during prep in general, but especially in your first prep. There is one, how lean you actually need to get for the class that you're competing in, because there is a range of condition that's required, especially as a female, from like bikini to figure to women's physique to bodybuilding. And then there's also just how much muscle mass and maturity do you actually have. So how lean are you actually capable of getting without then also sacrificing the overall rush. Because like, for example, with me, I am competing in figure, so the goal is not to get shredded because I would actually be marked down. And two, like I still don't have that mature, like dense look just yet, because I'm still a young athlete. It takes time to get there. So if I was to try and be like, I need to get shredded, I'd just look worse and worse, and I'd just look smaller. You're chasing something that's not there. So you need to have an expectation and understanding of how lean you actually need to get in order to be as competitive as you can be. wrap the video up there. Good session. Usual push session for us. As I kind of said at the start, it's pretty similar to the last push session. Changes, but just the same thing over again, but still taking good work. And I think enjoying the same thing. I think that's something that's important to do as a bodybuilder. Is like, I don't feel like I need to come into the session and there'll be loads of different stuff. Like, I just enjoy doing this, like just training and doing the same thing every day. I think you have to love that. And it's been a really good session today. It's been fun. Like, yes, you'll have seen my strength was down a little bit on some things, but that doesn't make it a bad session. You know, like, you need to change your perception of what is a bad session and what is. Why the fuck are you laughing at me?
I'm just trying to stay up to date with what you're saying. And it's like I'm looking at someone that's speaking like Spanish.
Oh, right.
Because I can't hear anything I'm saying.
Sorry, it's quite loud in here.
It's fine. They'll be able to hear you. It's just it's really loud in here.
So that's why AJ was confused. Anyway, have you had a good session?
Oh, yeah.
Session?
See.
Ah, yeah, see. Great session. Thanks for watching, guys. Please make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out MBW if you want to be a part of the best natural bodybuilding community, and also get access to a lot more awesome content on top of it. Yeah, I've got to do the hand clap to make this video. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.